Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Chris Winter and today I'm going to do an in-depth review on the brand new Canon 50mm f1.8 STM lens. I'll take a look at the build quality, test out its autofocus, take some sample shots and pretty much see if it's worth your money to buy one or upgrade if you've got the old nifty 50. And guys, make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be giving away either a Canon T6i or a T6S to a subscriber, so hit that subscribe button to enter. But anyway, let's take a look at this new nifty 50. So to start off with, let's first take a look at the build quality of this new lens. From the moment I picked up the lens, I pretty much knew that this was going to be a complete redesign from the old model, and I tell you what, it sure needed it. Now on the back of the lens, we now have a metallic mount, which is really nice to see. And yeah, moving up from that plastic mount has increased the weight slightly, but also hugely increases the longevity of this lens. And on the front, we've got a 49mm filter thread, which is even smaller than the old 52mm thread. And even the little things have been upgraded, like this autofocus manual focus button. I remember on the old one, it was really small and very easy to break. So it's nice to see the little things have been improved as well. On the old nifty 50, one of its worst parts was its focus ring. It was small, it was fiddly, and it was in the wrong position at the end of the lens. And fortunately, on the new 50 STM, it's all changed. The focus ring is absolutely fantastic. The new focus ring is very similar to the ones used on the 24mm STM and the 40mm STM, and it's wider now, making it easier to pull focus with, which was something that was almost impossible to do on the older version. Now it is still a focus by wire system, but I'm kind of getting used to this, and I don't mind it these days. Not only that, but it's finally now a full-time manual focus ring, which means that there's not going to be any more breaking your lens when you forget to take it out of autofocus mode. Great job, Canon. Hey guys, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check out my top 5 list of the best prime lenses for under $150. This lens makes it, but it doesn't come in at number 1, which is kind of surprising, yeah, how good it is. So I'll put a link in the description box below. Go check it out and see which lens topped the list. Now this is definitely not a macro specific lens, but one area which they did upgrade is the minimum focus distance. It's gone a little bit shorter, which means you can get a little bit closer to your subject. Whereas on the old nifty 50, the closest you could get was around 45 centimeters away. Now on this new STM model, you can get around 35 centimeters away, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a nice improvement. And you know, paired up with a crop sensored body like the Canon 70D or the Canon T6S, you can really get some nice close-up shots with this lens before investing in a dedicated macro lens. Now, even though the old nifty 50 was a cheap lens, it could still produce some really nice photos. Some of my favorite photos I've ever taken were actually taken with that lens, and that's because it had such a shallow depth of field. Now its bokeh was a little bit funny because it had only 5 aperture blades, but that's all been upgraded now on this new STM model. So on the new 50 STM, it's now been upgraded to 7 rounded aperture blades, and I found that this produces some really lovely bokeh. It's very smooth, it's very creamy, and because it's not kind of a funny shape, it's also not as distracting. And you know, to me, it's not a huge deal, but I know that there are some purists out there who like that rounded bokeh, so I guess it is a nice upgrade. Hey guys, if you want to see some sample images of this 51.8, what I'm going to do is put a link in the description box below so you can take a look at more than 20 sample images that I've taken with this 51.8. Go check it out and tell me what you think. Of course, one of the biggest upgrades of this new 50mm lens is the inclusion of an STM motor or stepping motor. Now I've used the 24mm STM, the 40 STM, the 18-135 STM, and I've been really impressed with their autofocus performance. And the old nifty 50, well, it wasn't great at autofocus, even in good lighting. It was noisy and it was really quite slow. So I'm really hoping that this new 50 STM is quite an upgrade. So what I'm going to do right now is do a quick autofocus test. I've got some vintage cameras right here and I'm going to autofocus on them. So listen out for that confirmation beep and we'll hear just how quick it is. So just for reference sake, I'm using a Canon T6S here. Wow. I actually have a bit of a smile on my face right here because it's so much quicker than the old 50 1.8. Now it is a little bit louder than the other STM lenses like the 18-135. That's essentially a silent lens and you can hear it a little bit whirring, but it's nothing like the old one. Let's just do it a little bit more. It's having no problems whatsoever. Let's just change it up a bit. That is very impressive. Gotta say, autofocus on the new 50 1.8 STM lens is a massive upgrade. Fantastic. Now guys, I thought it would be really important to test out the autofocus for video mode because I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of cinematographers wanting to use this lens. So I actually made a video about it. So if you want to check it out, click the link here and you can see how I test out the autofocus with the new 50 STM. So it's all well and good to talk about this lens and do a few tests, but let's take a look at a few sample images because I reckon that's the best way to see just how good this lens is. And from my testing, guys, I've got to say I've been so impressed with this lens, especially for $125. The bokeh looks fantastic, chromatic aberration's been greatly reduced compared to the old version, and vignetting, it's pretty much non-existent. And once you knock it down to around f2.8, this lens becomes about as sharp as you'd get from any lens in this price range. Colors are also handled really, really well, and you know what? If you get them in the right lighting conditions, it can really, really pop. So overall, I've been very impressed with how my images are turning out on this 50 STM. So there you go, guys. That was my review of the Canon 50mm f1.8. If you did get this far, I'd love it if you subscribe because I make plenty of good content like this, all photography and cinematography related. And make sure to check out my list of the top 5 best prime lenses under $150. I'm sure you're going to be surprised at what comes in at number 1. See you later, guys.